the sure-handed Chris Carter. They don't have a nickname yet, but they can hurt you in a hurry. The Metrodome in Minneapolis, the Redskins and the Minnesota Vikings. Pat Summerall with John Madden. And John, the Vikings vastly improved, the Redskins getting back on track. How do you see today's game?
Well, you know, Dennis Green came in here as a first-year coach with this Minnesota Viking team, and he's done a heck of a job. I mean, he has them believing it's his program. He has a real quickness, swarming to the ball, and I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see Dennis Green, a new coach with a new team, a young, quick team against the Washington Redskins, defending Super Bowl champion. It's the old power against the speed.
And Chip Lohmiller will kick off for the Redskins. Played collegiately here at Minnesota, so it's homecoming for him. Darren Nelson and Pete Henderson back deep for Minnesota, and Darren downs it in the end zone. 1st and 10 Vikings, led by Rich Gannon. Up front, a good offensive line. Zimmerman, McDaniel, Loudermilk, Habib, and Tim Irwin. Derek Tennell opens at tight end. Terry Allen, Anthony Carter, Chris Carter, and Joe Johnson in place of Hassan Jones. Rich Gannon, very athletic, and thus far this year very successful. From the 20. Crowd quiet so far, but they deal in excitement. Allen, 5-6. On defense for the Redskins, Stokes, Johnson, Williams, and Mann up front. Collins, Govea in the middle, and Wilbur Marshall having a great year outside. Johnson and Mayhew on the corner. Edwards and Copeland on the safety men. Sort of patched together, but very effectively by Rich Petty. 2nd and 3. Anthony Carter split wide to the left. Gannon looking right. Now goes left. Now runs. 1st down. With the last dive, he had to get to the stripe, and I think he made it.
You know, we talked to Dennis Green yesterday. We said, what's the most important thing you have to do offensively? And he said 2 words: pass protection. And here on the first play, this is pretty good pass protection. Gannon has to run, not because he's rushed. He has to run because he doesn't have anyone open, because that is very, very good pass protection. So the first time they had to do it, they did it well, even though Gannon comes up a little short of the 1st down. Just
a couple of inches. He had to get to the 30-yard stripe, and he didn't quite make it, so it's 3rd down. McDaniel in the backfield, and Allen got the 1st down behind him.
Yeah, they take their big guard, Randall McDaniel, and they put him in as fullback. He's right here, and he becomes the lead blocker. So you just say, okay, just let him go. So he just takes off. Now you follow right in behind your guard. You see, you find him, you get right in behind him, boom, and you're always going to find a soft spot for either a touchdown and goal line or a 1st down and short yardage.
He'll make some things cave in. So it's 1st and 10 Minnesota at their own 31. Chris Carter in motion. Gannon. It's Anthony Carter crossing. 14-yard gain stopped by A.J. Johnson. The Vikings, the quick Vikings.
Hey, Gannon looks good so far. I know that the Vikings had a little advantage in that they played a week ago Thursday, so they've had 10 days. Gannon had to come out of that game against Detroit. He hurt his knee and his thumb. He said yesterday his knee really feels good. The thing that's bothering him a little is his thumb on his right hand,
which he has hurt twice in different areas.
And you have to hit that thing every time the ball is snapped to you.
Allen has as they fake the reverse. They do that a lot. Tim Johnson made the stop.
But what they do is, you said they fake the reverse. Watch the end coming around. What they're trying to do is hold the middle linebacker. You see that fake of the reverse by the wide receiver coming around? They think that that will hold the middle linebacker or get him in movement or put him in a decision-making thing where he'll make the wrong decision.
That guy they're trying to hold, Govea, is a very instinctive football player.
Yeah, and I don't think he's going to be affected by tricks.
They go with 2 tight ends. Again, they fake the reverse. They give the ball to Allen. And he gets maybe a couple over the left side.
You know, that time they had a tight end. Brent Novoselsky was in the backfield. So we saw they had a guard in the backfield with Terry Allen. And then they put a tight end in the backfield with Terry Allen. I think that's that Washington Redskin offense. We're seeing more and more of that by the Redskins. Joe Gibbs started that. Jack Burns, of course, came from the Redskins staff, and he's now the offensive coordinator of the Vikings.
Well, Denny Green was saying yesterday it's like practicing against ourselves playing the Redskins. Same look. Here's Wilbur Marshall. Chases Gannon out of the pocket. Lost the ball. The Redskins had it. Wilbur Marshall on the blitz. Fred Stokes with the recovery.
Wilbur Marshall has made Pro Bowl and everything in this first part of the season. Here he is. He's going to come on the blitz from the outside. Not only get the sack, but he's going to force the fumble. No one blocks him. They go play pass. He gets by the tight end right there, Tennell. He gets spin. Gannon, again, doesn't have real big hands. Couldn't handle that ball. It comes out. Fred Stokes jumps on it.
One of the things Denny Green said yesterday we can't afford is early turnover. We can't let them get on top because they'll just smother us. Biner is the lone setback, ripping the quarterback. Biner left side with room. Biner over the 20 to about the 19. McMillan and Scott stopped him. Mark Rippon struggled early, but the last couple of weeks have been very good weeks. Up front, a patched offensive line. Elonowibi, Jacoby, McKenzie, Slarett, Simmons, and Don Warren, the tight end. Like another tackle. Biner, Sanders, Clark, and Monk, the posse. Flush Biner. Biner right side, more room. Jack Del Rio made the stop. Well, maybe they won't stop. Elonowibi,
and he's going against Chris Dolman. He's going to see a lot of Chris Dolman, or Chris Dolman will see a lot of big old Mo in there today, and that's one of the matchups that Joe Gibbs was worried about.
That's the Minnesota front. Dolman, Randall, Thomas, and Noga, very quick. The 3 linebackers, Merriweather, Del Rio, Jenkins, and that's the secondary. Ripping to throw it. Out to Biner. Dodged a couple. Inside the 15. Stopped by Henry Thomas. A gain of 6.
You know, last week the Redskins got in this red zone, or this area inside the 20-yard line. That's called the red zone. And they didn't do very well. You can see they're in there 6 times. They only got 1 touchdown. 3 field goals, and that's one of their goals. You know, when that happens to you, then that becomes a big monkey on your back. And then you work all week on inside the 20.
3rd and short. Rippon to Ricky Sanders. First down, Redskins. A pickup of 3, but 3 big ones.
Yeah, one thing, the Redskins in 3rd down, and this is what Denny Green was saying too, if you can get them 3rd down and they're less than 5 yards, they have great packages for that. That was just one of them. You don't see a lot of that, Rippon rolling out, but that's where he just rolled out, got outside of containment, let Sanders find an open area and just sit down in there.
They're very adept at that. All members of the posse. 1st and goal, just inside the 10. Ernest Biner left side, very little. Dolman having an outstanding year.
You see the bottom of Chris Dolman's shoes there. He's, you know, when they play on this artificial turf, the guys don't use cleats anymore. We were looking at Jack Del Rio's shoes, and they just use tennis shoes, a lot of them. Now, Dolman has football shoes on there, but a lot of the guys, like Jack Del Rio, is just using plain tennis shoes to play on this turf.
That's Sanders in motion. Second goal at the 9. Ripping to throw it. Pressure. Incomplete. Terry Orr, the intended receiver. That's Andre Collins headed for the locker room. Perhaps the X-ray room. We'll let you know as soon as we know.
Yeah, and he was, you know, he's the other linebacker. Wilbur Marshall is having such a great year. Tell you watch what an NFL quarterback has to go through. First he gets knocked down after he throws it. That's one thing, and then boom, you get that elbow to the face. So that's about a triple dipper. You get hit, then your body hits the turf, then the elbow goes to your head.
Third down, just inside the 10. Flag on the play is ripped and is taken down again by Thomas, this time, the last time by Randall, after he threw it. A loss of 8. But a yellow flag down. Noga might have jumped.
Defense, number 99, offside, 5 yards, repeat third down.
Still third down.
You were right, and Al Noga does jump. Al Noga is right there. Now, you see what that does is that not only gives them another shot, but it puts them at 3rd and 5 in a situation that they're so good. You know, so that is a big offsides by Al Noga.
But you know, that was close. He's just so quick.
You know, sometimes that'll happen. You know, we've seen that happen to Jerry Rice of the 49ers. I think it could have happened to Al Noga there. They're so quick that they're moving exactly when that ball moves. And to an official who's a little older, he thinks that the guy moved first.
They're just ahead of the other people.
Yeah, because they're quicker. They get a quicker read.
Ripping incomplete. And the struggles in the red zone continue for the Redskins.
And you see what that does for the home team. It gets the team excited. It gets their crowd excited that they had a fumble, but it didn't turn into 7 points.
So we'll see Chip Lohmiller, who, as I said earlier, played it collegiately here at University of Minnesota. So homecoming for him, 22 yards away. He's 10 out of 16 on the year, but he's still struggling just a bit. Not with that one. That one even went over the protective screen behind the goalpost.
CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by Chrysler Plymouth, a division of the Chrysler Corporation. UPS, for reliable on-time delivery throughout Europe and around the world. Trust UPS. And by Coors Cutter non-alcoholic brew.
(3-0) Washington. Minnesota 1st and 10 at their own 20. And they must feel a little bit good about things, stopping Washington with only 3. Monty Coleman has replaced Andre Collins. This is Terry Allen bouncing off Eric Williams.
You see big Eric Williams in there. He just came off the IR last week. Didn't think he was going to play much. Bobby Wilson went out during the week, had to back, can't play, maybe out for the season. Williams had to play most of the game. He said the injury he had was a knee, and he said that was the thing that least bothered him. He said his hands, his arms, his shoulders, his neck, his stomach.
Yeah.
He said his ankles, every other part bothered him, but not the knee.
Well, his cooking has suffered a little bit. The Gridiron Gourmet. Here's Gannon back to throw the screen pass incomplete. A little hard.
You know, the Redskins do that to you, and you know, they get a lot of talk about, you know, Joe Gibbs, the posse, their offense, Mark Rippon making $3 million. You don't talk a lot about this Redskin defense, but I think that this group really keeps them in a lot of plays. Now, just watch Monty Coleman on this thing. You see, he starts back like he's going to be off, and then he'll guard, then he'll cover, and then he'll come up and make the play. I mean, Monty Coleman is a real smart player. He's playing now for Collins. He has to play every down, but he's in there because he's a pass defender.
Yeah, he can still run. Gannon calls the timeout. It's an underrated defense coached by an underrated coach, I think.
I think Richie Pettibone does a better job than anyone in this league.
You are watching the National Football League on CBS Sports.
You know, Joe Gibbs is always talking about balance, and this is Warren Simmons right here, Rennie Simmons, and what his job is just to keep track of the plays that they run, how many times they pass and how many times they run, because Joe Gibbs would love to come out of the game and have half run and half pass, and he's always afraid he's going to throw too much. So he has Warren Simmons to keep track of the runs and passes in every game.
Gannon to Allen. Hit by Wilbur Marshall with some anger.
And you know what Joe Gibbs was saying? He said that, you know, once in a while Wilbur Marshall may do the wrong thing, but he does it with reckless abandon. He brings a big load when he does the wrong thing. Then that can make it the right thing a lot of times. I mean, the last 3 weeks, this guy has been playing amazing football. I've always thought that he's one of the best linebackers in football, and the way he's playing these last 3 weeks, he's the best linebacker in football.
Newsome back to punt. Brian Mitchell deep for the Redskins, fields it at the 21. Up to about the 31. Ray Berry down on the coverage for Minnesota. 52-yard punt, 3-0 Washington. At the Metrodome, Pat Summerall with John Madden. 3-0 Redskins, and Redskins 1st and 10 at their own 31. Joe Gibbs, very relaxed last night.
Yeah, we're talking about the play selection. Look at this. 5,918 passes, 5,835 runs. That's over 11 years and this season. That's his whole tenure.
That's Spiner. Hit by Del Rio and Merriweather as soon as he got the handoff for a loss of 1.
And, you know, we go back again, and you see, this is an amazing thing because this is not only balance, which he believes in. You say, what do you have to do? And he says, we have to be balanced. We have to run and pass. And then you look back and how steady and how balanced he's been for 11 years.
I think if you had to take a priority, and you know Joe Gibbs so well, he's one of those who believes you have to be able to run and then throw.
Oh, yeah. He believes if you can't run and stop the run, you can't play.
Ripping the Biner. Not enough for a first down, a gain of 9. Remember, they lost one on first. Rippon under pressure.
And they better block Chris Dolman better than that because Rippon really took a hit. I mean, I don't know how he got rid of that ball, but he gets up a little slowly. Watch here. Dolman's coming from the left of the screen. Play pass. Watch Dolman right there at his back. Boom. He takes him, and then he just keeps taking him to the ground. He slammed him to the ground pretty good on that one.
Eloanibi might need a little assistance with Dolman. They gave him some last week against Clyde Simmons. Now he's got some help. The Sanders first down. And right now, let's send you back to New York for an NFL update.
All right, Pat, at Tampa, the Lions, in desperate need of a win, have gotten 2 touchdown passes from Rodney Peete. This is his second to Herman Moore, who fights off Darrell Fullington. And then at about the 5, he begins to celebrate. He got 5 more yards to go. 14-0. Lions lead it in the first, Pat.
At the Metrodome, it's 3-0. Redskins leading. This is Biner over the right side for perhaps 3. Merriweather and Del Rio made the stop. Jack Del Rio, who played so well last year in Dallas, came here and he said, this is the place I fit.
Yeah, he wanted to go someplace where he was going to play and start. He wanted to go someplace that used a 4-man line because he's a middle linebacker. And he said he never felt more comfortable than he does here with this team and this coaching staff.
Well, the slot was his from the beginning, and he has certainly taken advantage of that. Now Sanders in motion. Screen pass to Biner. Blockers in front. Del Rio out to stop Biner after a gain of 7, about a yard short of a first down.
I've known Jack Del Rio for a long time. He grew up in the same area where I lived, and knew his father and his uncle and the whole thing. And he was a heck of a athlete in high school. I mean, he played baseball, football, and basketball. In fact, it's interesting, with Toronto winning the World Series last night, Jack Del Rio was drafted by Toronto when he came out of high school. So he either had to go to the Toronto Blue Jays organization or go to USC on a football and baseball scholarship, and he decided to go to the football.
You even knew his barber.
Oh yeah, Floyd the barber took care of the whole Del Rio family there in Castro Valley.
Ripping back to throw. Out of the pocket, doesn't get a first down. Again, it's number 56, Chris Dolman, and number 97, Henry Thomas. A loss of 3.
Here's Dolman right there. Here's Thomas here that has that cocked stance. And those two tackles in the middle are very, very active. And Dolman coming from the outside is again very active. So that whole Minnesota defensive 4 is a very, very active group. They do what you call swarm.
Kelly Goodburn back to punt. Parker back deep for Minnesota. Off the side of his foot. Handled at the 15. Redskins down in a hurry, led by Monty Coleman. And so Minnesota once again takes over in their own territory deep. A minute 29 left to play in the first quarter. 3-0 Washington. 36-yard punt by Goodburn. Rippon has been under pressure almost every time he's gone back to throw it.
Well, you know, we talked about the quickness of this line, and they only have 1 sack, but they've hurried Rippon 4 times, and they've knocked him down twice. One the time that Chris Dolman knocked him down. It didn't look like he was going to bounce right up, but Mark Rippon, he may be struggling or whatever, but he's a tough guy.
And a big guy. This is Roger Craig. Stopped by Wilbur Marshall. Roger Craig, who had so many great years for the 49ers, then with the Raiders, and now here in Minnesota. And they are very high on Roger Craig. They think he's still got some mileage left.
Well, Denny Green said he's underutilized. In fact, Denny Green was a coach with the 49ers when Roger Craig had all those great years.
On second down, Craig again. Roger Craig steps out of tacklers, lost the ball. The Redskins get it. Danny Copeland made the recovery.
Hey, that's the thing that the Vikings said that they can't have, and that's the thing that the Washington Redskins are doing so well this year. I mean, they just make things happen. Watch this. It's a draw play, a little delay, open up a hole. Craig makes some nice moves there, has that high knee action going, has the ball. Now, usually when you get here, you want to put the ball in your outside arm, on the arm to the sidelines. If you keep it inside, then you're going to get the ball hit from that inside. Govea goes boom, puts his head right on the ball.
And Copeland makes the recovery.
Yeah, there's a guy, Kurt Govea, that quietly makes a heck of a lot of plays for this defense.
Wherever the ball is, number 54 seems to be there. Here's Rippon. Wheels it out of bounds in the direction of Art Monk. There's Kurt Govea.
I tell you again, he had to throw it out there because, again, Chris Dolman was right there. I mean, they're going to have to do something. They better get that. You know, you usually go right formation. Chris Dolman is on your offensive left, and you're not used to putting your tight end left all the time. And I think that the Redskins better get used to getting a tight end over there all day. like they have right now.
This guy is so quick. Goldman. Rippon gets it to Gary Clark. Clark to about the Minnesota 26, a gain of 5, stopped by Del Rio.
The other way to do it is to have Joe Jacoby help. Joe Jacoby helped that time, and he also got hurt. He's going off the field. Watch. Here comes Dolman. Watch 66 Jacoby. He's going to turn out. He's going to help. Oluwanibi can't block him. And watch, just as Jacoby hit him with that shoulder, it looked like the shoulder popped out.
And that's the one area that they can't afford another loss. A loss of a body. That's the end of the first quarter. With the score, Washington 3, Minnesota nothing.
Upon learning that Little Caesars is offering 2 pizzas for $5.99, the mind enters 5 stages.
3-0 Washington. Joe Jacoby on the sideline now. Either neck or shoulder. He's been replaced now by Ray Brown. 3rd and 5. Again Rippon to throw. Again under pressure. This time by Henry Thomas. They are quick.
You know, it happens. This Viking defensive line we know is very, very quick. Now this offensive line of the Redskins are all different guys. Mark Schlereth, the right guard, is the only normal starter. Now watch what's happening. It looks like they're just too quick. They're running stunts here, and they're just getting by those guys. That was Henry Thomas here. Boom, the end comes down. Well, he comes right around.
Lohmiller will try from 52 yards out. If it's long enough, it's straight enough, and it is. And the Redskins lead 6-0. 52 yards by Chip Lohmiller. That's not a good name for that kick. That's no chip. 6-0. Washington over Minnesota. 52-yard field goal by Lohmiller.
You know, that last drive, the Redskins had the ball. We're talking about how they're having trouble with that quickness, and that's what they're talking there about the sideline, the stunts and stuff they're doing. They had the ball 3 times for -4 yards, so they went backwards fast.
This is going to be Darren Nelson. Nelson outside the 20, about the 22. Stopped by Sidney Johnson. 0-0 in the second quarter. The Giants lead Seattle 3-0. Devin Butler has given the Bears a 3-0 lead. Detroit 14-0 and Houston 7-0.
And we just got word that Joe Jacoby has a pinched nerve in his shoulder and the right side of the neck, and he will probably return.
Knowing him, he probably will.
He said that's the toughest thing when you play this long in the league, is knowing the ones you can play with and the ones you can't play with.
Gannon going deep for Anthony Carter. Incomplete, and no penalty markers down. Mayhew with good coverage.
You know, one thing I think we're seeing here is a real good defense or poor offense by both teams. Neither team seems to be able to get anything going. Of course, the Vikings have had 2 turnovers already, and the Redskins only have 6 points, so I think you'd have to say right now that's advantage Vikings.
Gannon's 2 out of 4. Redskins leading 6-0. And we watched that happen to them last week when they got inside that red zone and could only get field goals. Here's Gannon on the reverse to Anthony Carter. That doesn't fool too many Redskins. Monty Coleman was the first man there with Eric Williams an assist.
You know, the thing about this is you're going to see Anthony Carter come on a reverse on the bottom, and he's just going to come here, and that type of action where they can hand to him and let him run, or they can reverse to him, I mean fake to him and then throw the ball or hand to someone else. The Vikings use that more than anything. Now it just doesn't fool the Redskins at all.
It's not really a reverse. It's more like an end sweep.
Yeah, it's just an end sweep, and they run it to all their ends, and they try and hold the middle linebacker with it.
Cannon's pass complete to Chris Carter. He was juggling the ball as he went down, a gain of 3, not enough for a first down. This game is presented by authority of the National Football League, and this CBS telecast is intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of CBS, the Minnesota Vikings, and the National Football League is prohibited. McDaniel shaken. Sidney Johnson also shaken.
Yeah, we talk about, you talk about Joe Jacoby going out on one side and the Redskins not being able to afford that. Of course, the Vikings can't afford to lose Randall McDaniel. One of their big strengths is their offensive line, as Leslie Mister was talking about in the pregame show. And of that offensive line, this is probably their best player.
Certainly the most athletic.
Yeah, and he does so many things. I mean, he's a guy that gets out in front on screens. He's a guy that leads on sweeps. He's a guy they put in the backfield on short yardage and goal line. As I said, you can see there, a 3-time Pro Bowler, their best player. The Redskins can't lose Jacoby, but the Vikings can't lose McDaniel either.
Joe Jacoby. It's hard to imagine, and we said this before, how big he really is.
Well, you know, I mean, he's just gigantic, and he's played guard and tackle, and as Joe Gibbs was saying last night, and he played guard his whole career, he would have been all pro every year that he ever played. I mean, this guy is a guy that I've always thought has been one of the top offensive linemen in the game anyway. I've always thought that when you talk about your scouting system, this shows that there's something wrong with it, that it can't be perfect, because Joe Jacoby was missed by the entire NFL league. They shot an air ball on him. He was a free agent.
And they had him in his early days as a Redskin as a defensive lineman.
Yeah, and then on the other hand, Randall McDaniel here, you know how important offensive linemen are. He was a #1 draft choice. In fact, he was the last #1 draft choice the Minnesota Vikings have had.
Of course, many departed in the trade with Dallas to get Herschel Walker here. He too has departed. Newsom's punt is a good one. Desmond Howard. There's some room here for Desmond. Almost. Outside the 41. Novoselsky made the stop. Flag down on the play.
Yeah,
it's a bad looking flag.
Right, it is. It's a used looking flag, and it was way down where they punted against the Vikings.
It's another bad looking flag.
It'll be first down.
Well, I think what they did is one guy used the other ones. They've made 2 out of 1.
Both of them have been used somewhere. 6-0 Redskins. No rest for the wounded or those who administer to them. Somebody must have said that.
How big Joe Jacoby is. The guy had to climb up on the bench to work on him. McDaniel has a sprained right knee. They're not sure whether he'll come back. They have an ice pack on it now.
This is Ricky Irvin, who's replaced Biner and picked up 6. Stopped by Jenkins.
I think both of these teams are worried about pass protection, and because they're worried about pass protection, they're throwing the shorter and quicker passes. And you'd like to see somewhere, I think you have to stretch this defense. I think somewhere the Redskins have to, go a maximum protection and try and get a Gary Clark or Ricky Sanders or someone deep.
Second down. Irvin. First down. About the Minnesota 46, a gain of 7. This guy doesn't look very big or imposing, but he is strong and quick.
And he ran right in there in that power side. What the Redskins did is they took their group and they shifted them over to the left. Now watch them. They're going to be over here, then they're going to shift over here. Then the power side will come here, then they'll run to that side. And the Vikings don't adjust. You see Middleton go over, then Donnie Warren goes over, and they switch the linebacker, and then that gave them the power left side, and they ran right in behind it.
They're over where Dolman is. Here's Ripken. Throws it away in the direction of Middleton. Noga.
And
Ripken could feel him.
Yeah, and he was trying to get the ball to Gary Clark deep, what we just talked about. Gary Clark ran a post pattern. He had good coverage. They doubled him deep, and they couldn't go to him. So he had to come off that, partly because of Al Noga there, partly because of the good coverage, and partly because he better get rid of the ball or he's going to hurt a lot more than he's been hurt.
You know, Joe Gibbs was saying something interesting last night. He said, I always believed until the last few weeks you had to spread them out on defense to beat them. Now I've come to believe in the last couple of weeks you got to bunch up.
And that's what they're doing. You can see they bunch up more because then you can go play back and cross your guys better.
Here's Ripken back to throw it. Incomplete, intended for Clark. Del Rio.
And he's throwing real short passes, and again, it's not easy. I mean, you know, just watch what a quarterback has to throw. You know, I mean, it's not only that the guy has to be open, but he has to move around, and you see guys, I mean, he has to throw over his own guys, his own linemen. He has to throw through or around defensive linemen that are getting their hands up. So every time he goes back to throw, it's like throwing over a fence. It's never like just like playing catch.
A moving fence.
Yeah. And a hostile fence.
Third down. Ripken going backwards again, and the pass is intercepted and then dropped.
I think Ripken got hurt.
He was hit by Dolman. Henry Thomas also there.
And Henry Thomas came in there, and Henry Thomas hit him right on the knee just as he threw the ball. Again, we talked about Dolman having trouble with Dolman. They're also having trouble with Henry Thomas. Here's Henry Thomas right there. Now what? He's the guy with the cock stance. Again, they've been giving him a lot of stunts. You see, he starts, and it's a twist between the tackles. Watch, he hits him right on the left knee and grabs the right knee.
And again, they're working on Ripken on the sideline as Kelly Goodburn comes in to punt. Ray Brown was the man who was supposed to block, who principally blocked Henry Thomas. He replaced Jacoby.
Yeah, you talk about Dolman giving him trouble. I'll tell you, Henry Thomas is giving him a heck of a lot of trouble here.
Harker at the 11, fair catch. 35-yard punt. Excuse me, John.
Just saying, they're still looking at his knee. Watch Gary Clark here. The minute he knows he's in trouble, he goes from offense to defense. That would have been an interception had Gary Clark not reached his hand over and knocked that ball out of there. A very aware, alert player.
Mark Ripken. Six nothing Washington. 11:06 left to play in the first half. Viking ball at their own 10.5. Gannon fakes that reverse, gets it out to Allen, who juggles and bounced away. Incomplete.
You know, if you look at that play that Ripken was hurt on, and you watch Anthony Parker here, number 27, I think he made the interception. He has the ball, and again, the ground can't cause the fumble. When he fell down, he still had control of the ball. Gary Clark pulled it out after he was down. So that was very, very close to being an interception, if it in fact wasn't an interception.
They would have picked up 25 additional yards. Gannon complete to Johnson. For an NFL update, I'd like again to send you back to New York.
All right, Pat, at Philadelphia, the Eagles have broken the scoreless tie. Randall Cunningham to Calvin Williams, who apparently has nobody guarding him in the secondary. 40 yards and a 7-0 Eagle lead over the Cardinals in the second, Pat.
6-0 here at the Metrodome. The Redskins leading Minnesota. But so far, Although they trail, Minnesota has sort of controlled things. 2 turnovers have led to 2 field goals. Terry Allen hit at about the 25. Pick up a 5. A.J. Johnson made the tackle. First down, Minnesota. Reason to applaud for this sold-out crowd for the first time today.
Yeah, but it's tough to tell Terry Allen that. He got the first down, but he paid for it. We talk about the Minnesota Viking defense and Tony Dungy and how they swarm, but this Washington Redskin defense is really swarming, and their 2 safeties, Brad Edwards and Danny Copeland, the last couple weeks have been all over the field.
And yet you still say, who are they? Here's Gannon. Low to Carter, incomplete. Joe Johnson, beg your pardon. Ex-Redskin.
Yeah, they all know Joe Johnson. In fact, the Redskins were a little upset with Joe Johnson. They said that he was saying that the Vikings have their own posse and the Vikings are as good and this and that, or maybe the Redskins just build it up. But when the Redskins came in last night, they were really mad. They were saying the Vikings are talk and all they are is talk, and they're going to do this and they're going to do that, and we're the Super Bowl champions and we'll see. And I don't know exactly what the Vikings said, but it didn't sound that bad to me.
They just made it bad.
Well, one guy they pointed to was Joe Johnson.
Roger Craig was the setback. That's Mike Tice on the receiving end, stopped by Wilbur Marshall. Tice got 5.
Well, Mike Tice is the Donnie Warren of the Vikings. He's a guy who's listed as a tight end, but helps mostly as a blocker. And when one of those guys, either a Tice or a Warren, catch a pass, that's kind of a story. You know, you can stop the game and take the ball off to the side and let them go home. There's their usual or normal tight end, or their great tight end, Steve Jordan in street clothes, has been one of the great tight ends for the Minnesota Vikings.
He's missed a couple of weeks. Gannon's pass complete to Anthony Carter. Stopped by A.J. Johnson and up for another Viking first down and a gain of 11.
This guy, I've always thought, has been one of the top receivers in the league. Again, you give Gannon pass protection, Anthony Carter will find an open space. Now, he usually doesn't go down that easy. One of the things that he does is run well with the ball after. But watch this pass protection. See how they form a pocket? They let him step up and throw.
There's Gannon again, going deep. Chris Carter has it at the Redskin 15. Danny Copeland made the stop. Gannon to Carter, 44 yards.
And Chris Carter's a guy you think of, a ball control guy, a possession type receiver, not going deep. In fact, Buddy Ryan got rid of him at the Eagles because he couldn't go deep. That time Gannon gave him a pump fake. Watch him. He'll come back here, pump, boom, take a couple steps back, get to hold that safety, and then just throw it right up over Danny Copeland's head.
First and 10 Minnesota at the Washington 15. Gannon has Allen back behind him now, but he's going to throw it. Picked off by Gobert. Kurt Gobert. What he contributes, you can't put a price on.
Yeah, and that's an example of it right there. Kurt Gobert just being in the right place. You know, a lot of guys are football players, but they don't all know how to play the game. Watch Gobert. 54, he's just sitting there, he reads, they go to the play pass, he knows it's not play pass, he has that back, and he tries to throw it to Allen, he throws it to Gobert. That was a good play by Gobert, a very poor throw by Gannon. You see, when he comes back, he doesn't look enough. He was looking left, looking left, looking left, and when he come back, he saw 21, but he didn't see 54.
Third turnover by Minnesota, ripping his back at quarterback. He has a sprained right knee, but he's playing. That's Biner. Inside the 40 to the 37. Todd Scott and Carl Lee made the stop. 23-yard by Biner. That's got to be his longest in a long time.
Yeah, we look at what the Redskin defense has done today, and here's the big one right here, causing 3 turnovers. Now the offense has to do something about it. They have 3 turnovers, but again, they only got 6 points out of that.
1st and 10 Redskins at the Viking 37. That's Monk on the move. Ripping to Biner again. Biner to the 20 and out of bounds. McMillan took him out of bounds. A run of 17 by Ernest Biner.
You know, watch this. Chris Dolman is right here. He's going to take an inside move. Boom, he gets blocked right there. Now watch what happens, and that's where they run. And we can see it happen here. See, when he takes the inside, right now he's blocked. And then right now they know that they can get the tight end outside, and Biner has a big hole. Whenever an end takes a pinch move, if you can go that way and get outside of him, you can get a big play.
One of the things Joe Gibbs was saying about Biner and why he liked him so much last night was he has great vision.
You know, and the other good thing you like is once you catch a guy going inside and they take advantage of it, he won't go inside anymore for a while.
6-0. Pat Summerall with John Madden. The Metrodome in Minneapolis. Unseasonably warm outside. Up in the 70s.
Yeah, in fact, this game should have been played outside. I mean, you got the Redskins. They played the Super Bowl here. The defending champions. They bring in the Hogs, the running game, the bunt, the whole thing. You shouldn't play this game in a dome.
You need some real dirt.
Or some real air or something. Something real.
Ripping. Ernest Biner again. That 23-yard run before was his longest of the year, by the way, and the longest the Vikings have allowed this year.
Yeah, I think that when Joe Gibbs thinks about his offense, he kind of thinks of Ernest Biner as the heart and soul of that offense. He really loves this guy. I mean, you know the way he plays and how tough he is and how hard he is and how hard he plays and, with good move. I mean, he does all the things that a football player has to do or supposed to do.
Sanders left. It's Biner again. To the 10. Close to a first down. Felix Wright made the stop.
Yeah, they always talk about how the artificial turf is quicker and how the Vikings can be quicker. But the other thing is the Redskins are quicker too. I mean, Biner's making some great cuts here.
Oh, boy.
I have never seen Ernest Biner as quick as he's been on this drive. They can say, well, the Vikings get to play here all the time. They're quick, but the Washington Redskins won a Super Bowl here, but it's going to be quicker for them too.
On a quick count, Rippon sneaks for the first down, Washington.
Again, we see going out there, number 52, that was the last player taken in the draft, Matt Elliott. And the Heisman Trophy winner, of course.
And
he was a Lozman Trophy winner. Call him the Pillsbury Doughboy. Look at now he's going to sign out. It's like you go in and you make a play. He was in there in short yardage as a tight end.
I played a play.
Yeah, and then you sign out. Like a day's work, like a lunch bucket. I'm a lunch bucket guy.
It's Biner. Cuts inside to the 8. Stopped by Jack Del Rio.
But this is a totally different game played on artificial turf. When we talk about Jack Del Rio, look at his shoes. He's wearing tennis shoes out there. I mean, that's the way they play. Those are basketball shoes. And the game is getting that way now. So you don't use cleats anymore. You don't have to get in and drive and stuff like that. Everything is boom. I mean, you just keep your feet down and then right out of it. And that's what Biner's doing.
You used to look for traction with cleats, and now you look not to have your foot planted on this surface.
That's the way you get those knees.
It's Biner, left side. He got a couple of yards, no more. Perhaps only one.
Yeah,
Henry Thomas.
They're getting all their parts knocked off. Pieces, chin straps. Dolman must have had an extra chin strap because he
put it away.
He has one on, then he stuck it in his pants. I think he's stealing it. That's a good street move, especially if it's the other guy's chin strap. So you take his chin strap, you just put it in your pants, and then the guy doesn't have one.
Now let's find out whose it is.
Yeah, and then you can knock his helmet off.
3rd and goal at the 7. Rippon hasn't thrown since he came back. Now he will. Mobility's increased. The arm finds the stands behind the end zone. Sanders was nearest. And here comes Lohmiller again.
Good defense by the Vikings, and I think that the Redskins are snake bit inside this 20. You know, because if they can't run, then they get into that passing situation. Very good coverage then. I mean, Mark Rippon came on a roll. He was trying to hit Ricky Sanders on a corner. Sanders was covered, so he just threw that one away to keep his field goal.
The Redskins have gotten 3 turnovers. As a result, they've gotten 2 field goals, and Lohmiller will try for the 3rd from 25 yards out. And it is 9-0. Washington over Minnesota. 2:38 left to play in the first half. And coming up on the NFL Today, the halftime report. Greg and Terry will have all the scores and the highlights from today's NFL action.
Yeah, the Vikings have really played pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a much better team, and their defense is playing well. Offensively, they've gotten things going, but when you have 3 turnovers against the defending world champion, you know that you're going to be behind. I think Denny Green has to feel pretty good that he's had 3 turnovers and he's only 9 points behind. Yeah, we talk about their coordinators. I know I was asking Chris Carter, what's the best thing that Denny Green brought here? And he said the coordinators. Here's Jack Burns. He's the offensive coordinator. Here's Tony Dungy, the defensive coordinator. And I'll tell you, Jack Burns came from the Redskins, and he brought that Redskin offense here. Tony Dungy has been a top defensive coach ever since he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And a heck of a player.
Yeah, I remember we played against the Oakland Raiders, the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was always a good player and a very smart player.
Darren Nelson at the 6. Taken down first by Mitchell. The flag is down on the play. Lohmiller's 3 for 3.
Yeah, which is a good news. I mean, Lohmiller is here. He's kicking it home. He's from the University of Minnesota. And you can't beat that for a kicker to kick in a home dome.
With no win.
Well, no, there's no nothing. I mean, the kickers love this.
On the return, number 86, 10 yards, first down.
Vikings penalized 10 yards. They'll start deep once again in their own territory with a long way to go.
And the bad news for the Redskins is that because Lohmiller got those 3 field goals, mean that they haven't had success inside that red zone. And they've had 3 turnovers again.
They got 1 early touchdown last week against the Eagles. Since then, no end zone visits. Again, they fake that reverse screen pass. Thrown to the yard line marker. Terry Allen, I believe, the intended receiver.
And darn near hit his left tackle, Gary Zimmerman. But I'll tell you, you can't get screens and draws going until you throw the ball down the field. And if you don't get them off, worried about the passes to the Carters and so on, they're not going to drop off for screens. They're just staying there. They're playing screen, the Redskin defense is, and they're playing run, and they're playing Gannon for the run. They're playing Rich Gannon this week, just like they played last week against Randall Cunningham.
Chris Carter in motion, Gannon back to throw. Johnson complete. First down, perhaps, yes. No,
this is Joe Johnson here. He's going to be just a little short. Watch a marker there. You see, he's okay. Then he came back a yard too much.
Right.
See, and they leave that pink thing out there so they can tell where it is. Now, that's tough for Joe Johnson because he has to come back to catch the ball, but you would like to keep the first down once you get it. I think what he did was right.
That will indicate 2 minutes left to play in the first half. The Redskins leading Minnesota 9-0. Big game next week as the Eagles and Cowboys meet for the second time this year. John and I will be there for it. Herschel Walker started his career as a Cowboy. Then he was nothing. Washington over Minnesota, 3rd and 1. Minnesota ball at their own 20. Allen didn't get the first. He might have with that extra roll, but he still appears to be short. Wilburn Marshall and Eric Williams.
Well, that's 58. Wilbur Marshall's going to come from the top of the screen. You see him and knife right in there, make the tackle. Now Allen comes right there and does a late, and he gets right to the line.
And that's not enough.
No, that's where the ball started, and he needed a half a yard, and he didn't get it. That was a heck of a play by Wilbur Marshall again. I mean, coming in from that outside and diving in and then getting that tackle and not letting him get to that first down mark.
This is a Redskin timeout. Newsome in to punt for Minnesota, averaging 51.5 yards. Irvin's back deep. The Eagles continue to lead 7-0, 3-3 at Giant Stadium. The Bears have got 2 touchdowns and a field goal by Butler to lead 17-3. Cincinnati and Houston 10 apiece. Have all those scores and highlights again at the half with Greg and Terry. Newsome standing at the 5. Brian Mitchell. The Redskins back at about the 34. Another good kick by Newsome. Mitchell signals fair catch and gets out of bounds. Just inside the 35. 45-yard punt by Newsome.
You know, Joe Jacoby's out now for the Redskins. He left, and he was, you know, one of their top offensive linemen forever. Jim Lachey is out. He's their, you know, their left tackle, and again, maybe the best tackle or one of the best linemen in all of football. Jeff Bostic, their center, is out. So we just saw Jacoby going in the locker room early. So you talk about this offensive line and the Hogs. This isn't them because 3 out of the 5 aren't in there now. This is really a makeshift group.
Here's Rippon to throw it. Has his tight end Terry Orr for a gain of 7. Jenkins and Del Rio converge. No huddle. Mark Rippon said last night this would be the only time this week they would use the no huddle. Draw play to Irvin. Not enough for a first. Might have to use a timeout now.
Well, you know, what's really been hurting them is not being able to consistently gain enough yards running. I mean, the Viking defense is doing a good job against the run. So if you're going to establish a run like Joe Gibbs has been trying to, you have to get first downs with it. When you don't, then you force that third and passing, and they've been in too many of those things.
They didn't take a timeout. And Minnesota takes the timeout after Washington was just about out of time to get the play going. They had to make some substitutions. Matt Elliott.
And you wonder with everything that's happened why the Redskins aren't ahead by a whole bunch of points with getting 3 turnovers. But look what they've done in the last 2 weeks. They've been inside the 20 8 times, and they've only scored 1 touchdown. Of course, they have 5 field goals.
Yeah, but that's not what you want.
No, that's the thing. I mean, you know, that when you get those turnovers, you want to. I mean, I always thought as a coach that if I got 3 turnovers, that ought to be 21 offensive points.
That's the time for a knockout.
Yeah, right. And when you get 3 turnovers and you have 9 points, you say that's good. It's not okay. It's not great. But, you know, I mean, I still kind of like you. But I need some touchdowns to love you.
And really, emotionally, it's almost a consolation prize. 3rd and 1.
I think that's kept his Vikings crowd and team in the game.
First down, Washington, just across the 50. Scott right stopped Irvin.
Yeah, he's a powerful guy, that Ricky Irvins, and he finishes off his runs. In fact, it was Ricky Irvins last week finishing off a run that broke Andre Waters' leg in the Eagle game.
Down to 35 seconds left to play in the first half. Ripping back to throw it. Screen pass to Irvin. Got some blockers. You can hear the hits. Felix Wright and Merriweather made the stop. Close to a first down. Maybe not. 25 seconds left to play first half. Redskins out of timeouts.
We talk about all the guys the Redskins offensive line has lost. Randall McDaniel there, number 64, injured his knee, and we're not sure whether he's going to be back or not, but he's probably the best of that Viking offensive line. So, you know, the offensive line in these football games are so important. I mean, yeah, you talk about the backs, the ends, the quarterbacks, they get all the big money, but it all starts with these linemen. And if you don't have them, and if they don't do the job, none of those other guys get done what they're supposed to be doing.
The guy he was talking to is Scott Adams, a backup lineman from Minnesota. Went to the same high school I did. A little bit later.
Yeah, well, it sounded like it was a little bit later, because when he walked in the room and said, "Hi, Mr. Summerall, my grandpa said to say hello to you." That's a couple of generation jump there.
I thought maybe you didn't hear that.
No, yeah, I heard it out of my peripheral ear. I wasn't paying any attention to it, but I heard it. My grandpa said to say hello to you. I think there's a picture. No, that's probably before. Yeah.
That might be a few years ago.
Yeah, well, that guy was carrying that in his wallet. That was a good-looking picture there.
Must be distorted. Ricky Sanders, the reception from Rippon.
And remember, the Redskins don't have any timeouts left, so they have to get the ball out of bounds, get some yardage, get the ball out of bounds, and try a field goal.
Rippon stops it with 4 seconds to go.
Rippon's pass incomplete. Flag on the play.
Flag on the play.
Right now, if they don't gain any yards, right now it would be like a 40. It would be a 49-yard field goal. That's what they're going to do.
99, offside, 5 yards. Repeat second down.
They just picked up 5 yards. That, again, is going to go to the field goal. That was on Al Noga again. That's his second time. I don't know if he was offsides or, again, just very, very quick.
But whatever, it gives Lohmiller 5 less yards to attempt a field goal. 45 yards. Instead of another 52. Not that he needed it on the 52-yarder that he hit. High enough and far enough and good again. And it's 12-0 Redskins. That's the end of the first half with the score. The Washington Redskins 12 and the Minnesota Vikings nothing.
CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by the Heartbeat of America, Chevrolet, and your local Chevy dealer.
Column looks like a dance step. Fumble punt, fumble punt. Nothing as the Vikings take the field. The Redskins will get the second half kickoff as they continue to loosen on the sideline. No word yet on the injured McDaniel or the injured Jacoby for Washington and what might happen as far as they're concerned. Both teams now very thin in the all-important offensive line.
You know, and you talk about repeating, and the Redskins winning the Super Bowl a year ago, and can they repeat? It's so tough. I mean, after you win, it's tough to get all your guys in camp Then guys come in late. Then you start getting injuries. You lose Darrell Green for the year. You lose Lachey. You lose Bostic. And then pretty soon you get down, you have good depth, but all your depth is playing, so you don't have any depth anymore.
And that's happened to the Redskins. And of course, then everybody's shooting for you as the defending champions. 5 yards deep in the end zone. They don't bring it out. Griffin, as we showed you a minute ago, only had 46 yards passing in the first half.
And you can see that he only went deep one time over 15 yards. He was 1 for 3 to the left, 3 for 4 in the middle, 5 for 8 to the right. But again, he really didn't go deep. Now, part of that was good defense by the Vikings, and the other part is you have an inexperienced line not working together, so you're not going to be able to think about going deep a lot.
Eloanibi and Ray Brown to the left of Raleigh McKenzie, who's played center. Then Schlorett. And this is Viner. Stopped by Dolman.
You know, an interesting thing is Henry Thomas. Now watch the way that he lines up in there, cocked right here. Now he can start here. Now anytime you get in there, he has to go in sideways, and he's such a good player. They have to double him or start on a double and then come off. You see, and that's what they're doing to him. They start on a double, get him pushed back, get him out of there, then you can run in the middle.
2nd and 6. The 2 tackles on defense for Minnesota shift. The draw play goes to Viner. Thomas got a hand on him, stopped by Merriweather.
But it's really tough in there because he has his head in one hole and his backside in the other hole. And then if you try and block a man, he's going to do it. You see, here he is. Now that's a different stand. You see the center is looking at this part of him. The right guard is looking at that part of him. And I'll tell you, that is a tough angle to block. If you try and single him like that, he's going to make that kind of play. You either have to chip him, which you start on a double, or, in fact, double team him.
3rd and 7, Rippon to throw it. Dolman chasing. Outside Viner, flag on the play. Dolman got inside the blocker, Eloanibi.
And that is a tough thing. That's where they need to help out there, Pat, is out there on Dolman. Because I think that they have to start keeping tight end all the time. You see, here's Dolman. Now, there's no tight end there to help and double. And I think what that can do, now you give him an inside or an outside go. That time he faked to the outside, and as you said, he went inside. Now, when you take that inside, boom, you take 2 steps, you're right in the quarterback's face.
Yeah, that's where the holding was.
Right, and they just have to double Dolman. I mean, they got to get some help out there tomorrow. They got to give him a guard. They got to get him a tight end, a back, or something.
Parker back deep for the Vikings. Good burn to punt. They declined the penalty, but it's still 4th down. They got 6 yards on the play. Not his best. Parker at the 26. To about the 38. This is the best start of the day in terms of where the ball is for the Vikings all day. Elliott made the stop.
That defensive line had a lot to do with this position. As we look at the Vikings, now again, they under 10 yards. This is where they throw most of this. 5 out of 10, 2 for 2 between 10 to 20. They haven't thrown anything between 20 and 30. And then over 30, they're just 1, and over 40, they're 1 for 1. They did hit one deep one.
That from Gannon to Chris Carter. That was a little bit unexpected, that deep one to Carter. To Chris, not to Anthony.
Yeah, that was when he did the pump, remember, and held the safety and then got it deep.
This is a reverse to AC. And again, it doesn't fool anybody. The loss of a yard. Monty Coleman made the stop.
I think the Minnesota Vikings probably run the reverse or the end around action more than anyone in football. Maybe all the teams in football combined. So I guarantee you the Redskin defense is going to be ready for that. I think the only way they could fool them is do something off it, like throw a pass off it or something.
They have some. That's Chris Carter in motion. And the handoff is to Allen. That got about 5 yards. 6 perhaps.
That's what strength coaches do after halftime, because you know a guy, that's Ricky Sanders there, a guy that has speed, and again you're playing indoors and they do sweat a lot in here, and he's starting to cramp up. So you'll go in and you sit at halftime, and a lot of players will get cramps when they sit and stop, and they have to be stretched out all over again.
If that's what they do after the half, what happens after the game?
After the game, you know, that's true. If you're going to fly in an airplane, then you have to be stretched out to fly.
Incomplete. Three and out.
I don't know. I think, you know, you look at one side of this, you can say, geez, this is great defense or ineffective offense on both sides. I tend to think it's a combination of both. I think we're seeing very good defense, smart defense by the Redskins, very aggressive, good defensive line play by the Vikings.
Brian Mitchell is number 30. Harry Newsom has had a good day kicking. And this is another dandy. Mitchell lets it bounce, and it bounces backwards and still goes backwards. I think it might have hit one of the Redskins. It did. It hit Sidney Johnson, and the Vikings come up with it.
That's the thing, as a coach, you always tell your players, if the punt hits the ground, get out of the way, run off the field. If we're not going to return it, get out of there. See, Sidney Johnson shouldn't have been there. No Redskins should have been there, although it is an artificial turf bounce. I mean, that ball was going way back there.
Novoselsky made the recovery. Get away from it.
But you know, on artificial turf, that's harder. On grass, it wouldn't have bounced that far back. On an artificial turf, you have to get way, way away from it.
So the Vikings get a break. 1st and 10 at the Redskin 15. Gannon to Allen. He is hit by Monty Coleman in the backfield. Deep in the backfield.
Andre Coleman has been a heck of a player. I mean, here's a guy who's played 14 years in the league. He's right down here. He's in there playing for Andre Collins. And Monty Coleman has just been an amazing guy. He's usually a pass down guy. You think 14 years, he would lose some speed. The guy in 14 years has lost nothing. He's a lot on defense like Art Monk is on offense.
Very much so. He still can really run. Here's Gannon. He has time. Pass is complete. Caught by Johnson. Got away from Govea. Stokes and Marshall put the heat.
You know, it's interesting that Rich Gannon went to Joe Johnson on this, because Johnson is playing because Hassan Jones is out. We talked to Gannon yesterday. Joe Johnson is the guy that he was worried about, you know, knowing what to do, where to be. Then when he got in trouble there, the guy that he went to was Joe Johnson.
He's caught 3, 3rd and 6. Ball at about the 10. Here's Gannon again. Up the middle. Tripped up inside the 10. Not enough for a first down. 2 yards. Stopped by number 54, Govea.
You know, Govea down here in this red zone on defense makes a heck of a lot of plays for these Redskins. Early, he's the guy down there that made the interception. Down here on this quarterback run, he's the guy that makes a tackle. Watch this. And one thing about Govea, he's a good open field tackler. You know, and that plays well for screens. That's where he was good on special teams, and that'll cause the field goal kicker to come out.
Wad Reveiz for the field goal from 26 yards to put the Vikings on the board. And it's 12-3 now. 5 field goals. 4 by the Redskins, 1 by the Vikings and Reveiz. Often tumultuous lives of Diana Spencer and Sarah Ferguson. Reveiz set to kick off. Howard is number 80, along with Brian Mitchell back deep for the Redskins. Desmond Howard swarmed on by the Vikings and in a hurry at about the 15. Jake Reed was the first one there with an assist from this guy, Minuski, ex-Redskin.
Yeah, watch. Here's a guy who makes a living doing this. All you do is cover kicks. Man, the Suicide Squad, they say you got to be goofy to do it. Minuski comes in every category. He is there. Whatever it takes, I'm going to get there.
But for a living?
In Frederick Miller's
ex-teammates, I mean, Minuski's coming down there like a freight train. Govea hits him like a freight train, has to check his helmet. There's the 14-year vet getting him next, Monty Coleman. And then after it was all over, they both laughed. There's Minuski's reaction. That is a reaction of a guy who covers kickoffs without a helmet.
Dolman jumped into Elawanibi. Third quarter score, as that is as well.
Prior to snap, number 64, offense, 5 yards,
moved.
second down.
Elawanibi did a lot better job last week against Clyde Simmons and the Eagles than he's doing today against the Minnesota Vikings and Chris Dolman.
Don't you think he had more help last week?
I think he had more help, but I think he had a little more component. You know, and if you don't get beat, then you get confidence. I mean, he didn't jump off sides. He didn't move early. He didn't do any of those things last week.
Plus, it was on grass.
And at home.
Outside Clark. Close to a first down. McMillan made the stop, a gain of 9.
Gary Clark, you know, I'm sure at halftime he had only caught one pass in the first half for 5 yards, and Gary Clark, he was in there and saying, "Hey, look, let's start throwing the ball bait. You know, we don't. All we got is field goals. I'll score you some touchdowns."
Well, you know, he practiced 2 days last week. That's unusual for him.
Yeah, because the 2 weeks before that he didn't practice. He's going out now because of short yardage. But he didn't practice, and they won, so the guys were telling him, "Hey, take it easy." They're afraid it'd be a bad omen.
Third and short. Evans has the first down, and he is knocked backwards after he got it. Vincey Glenn just up to make the hit.
Now we see Clark coming back in. You know, he was talking about when Art Monk broke the record. He says he was upset that he wasn't in the game. I thought he meant, oh, you know, that's nice, teammate. You want to be a part of it. He said he wanted to be in the game so he could have run over there and got the ball. He said that's going to be worth a lot at auction and stuff.
Always thinking.
And that's the way he thinks, too. Everyone thinks, Art Monk, I'll go, I'll tap him on the head, I'll congratulate him, I'll hug him, I'll do this. Gary Clark's thinking, I'll go steal the ball. Get it at an auction, raise some money for charity.
One stop for a word from Rippon. Flag on the play. Ricky Irvin's out of the backfield, made the reception, stopped by Del Rio. A gain of 5, but a penalty marker down against the Redskins.
And Rippon was hit again by John Randall, the other tackle. Talking about Henry Thomas, one tackle. John Randall is the under or quick tackle.
Larry Nemmers, the referee.
Holding, 67 offense, 10 yards, repeat first down.
67 is Ray Brown. He's playing right here. He's the guy who's blocking or playing for Joe Jacoby. And he's the guy who was trying to block John Randall, who is the guy that hit Mark Rippon. That was a heck of a move by Randall, though.
That's one they were practicing on the goalpost before the game.
Right, and what happened is Ray Brown got his nose up over his toes.
Rippon incomplete, intended for Clark. Carl Lee was the nearest defender.
And I'll tell you, that is an upset guy in Gary Clark, because he they don't make competitors any more competitive than Gary Clark, or they don't make people any more competitive than Gary Clark. And when he drops one like that, he is one mad gag. Guys can clap, they can say everything. He's going to carry on for a long time.
Well, when you were asking him last night how he had done against the two cornerbacks, McMillan and Lee, he said, I'm about 50-50 with Lee.
Yeah, he says, I have a lot of respect for Lee. I thought you'd say 100%.
I thought he would too. This is Urban, racked up by Merriweather, and he doesn't like it.
I'll tell you, the intensity level has gone up here this second half since the Vikings scored. The other thing that's gone up, and Gary Clark talked about last night, is the talk out on the field. These teams are doing a heck of a lot more talking to each other this second half. Good play. They tried to pull Ray Brown, the guard, out to get Merriweather. He got hung up, didn't get out there, so that freed Mike Merriweather.
That's the end of the play, almost. 3rd and 23.
I think that's the talk and the puffing up and all that stuff to do.
The penalty is refused. 3rd down.
3rd down. A penalty refused. Mr. Excitement is Merriweather.
I tell you, Mr. Excitement right now is this crowd. The Redskins didn't work on any silent count. What they're going to do, Joe Gibbs said, is just get in the huddle, call the play, and whatever the defense is, run the play. Don't try and audibilize. And this is where usually when you're coming out of the goal line or going in is where crowd noise bothers you.
Please set the game clock to 6 minutes and 32 seconds.
Resetting the game clock, as you heard. The posse. Look what they've done today. They need them, the Redskins do. Monk has not caught a pass. Sanders and Clark have caught 3 apiece, but not big yardage.
And of course, Art Monk has that streak going, but Art Monk will catch a pass before this game's over.
That's Sanders in motion and ripping back to throw. Under pressure, he gets it out to Urban. Urban out of bounds outside the 20, not nearly enough for a first down. A pickup of 11.
And Al Noga knocked down Mark Rippon, and then he put his hands out. Al Noga already has 2 penalties. He doesn't want a 3rd one. Watch 99 coming there at the top of the screen. The thing is over. He hits him and knocks him down. Now watch. Now he puts both hands out. He's going to say, I didn't do it. I mean, that's the thing, that I'm clean. He goes like that. The referee looked, didn't call anything.
Rippon not that mobile anyway, and now with the bad knees, he's almost back there unprotected. Woodburn's kick, handled by Parker, who fell down, got away from one tackler, and another. And it's finally hit down at about the 34 by Matt Elliott. 12-3, Washington. It's Hassan Jones behind him.
And of course, Steve Jordan gave him that pass-catching tight end, and Hassan Jones gives him that tough wide receiver that, you know, would go inside and do all those tough things.
Adam Schreiber has replaced McDaniel at left guard. McDaniel still hasn't come out from the locker room. Here's Allen. Just not much there. Monty Coleman led the Washington defenders. 2-yard gain.
And of course, Monty Coleman is taking Andre Collins' place. Andre Collins went out in the first half. Joe Jacoby went out in the first half. McDaniel went out in the first half. There's been a lot of guys that have gone out of this game.
By the way, the word on Collins is that he had a sprained back. And whether or not he'll return is still a question. Monty Coleman's done a good job, yes.
So we saw Jim Hannafin there trying to put together an offensive line on the bench.
Gannon back to throw. It's going to be a screen if they can get rid of it. They finally do that. The Redskins read it. Danny Copeland played it.
Yeah, that's one thing about Gannon is that he can move, and he can move with speed. I mean, I think that's why the Redskins were talking about Randall Cunningham, because this is a guy, when he played in college, he was drafted by the Patriots, and they wanted to use him as a wide receiver or a defensive back, because he ran a 4.5 40, and that is as fast as most wide receivers, running backs, and defensive backs in this league. So when he runs with the ball, you've got some real speed coming out there.
Third down. About 4.5 minutes left in the third quarter. Gannon back to throw. Chased out of the pocket. Gets it to Carter, incomplete. He was open. Brad Edwards, the defender. Carter had about a half a step.
It seems like, watch 80 here, Chris Carter. He's gonna come across. He gets in there, stops, see, like a stack. Then he's going to come up and then right in there and then start on across. He gets his step there. That you can get open going deep, but today the way football is played, you have more success like that, getting open, going across in front of safety. The Redskins do an awful lot of that, and the Vikings also do it.
Mitchell back deep. And hit down after about a 4-yard return by Jake Reed. And so the Redskins take over there after a 46-yard punt by Newsom.
Down there in Dallas, because the Eagles got him once already, and Jimmy Johnson doesn't forget those things.
That's Biner for a pickup of 5, stopped by the safety man Todd Scott.
Yeah, Biner's doing his job. The running game's going pretty well, but you know, consistency is the thing, and I'm sure when Joe Gibbs talks about this game, he's going to say that, you know, we fought like heck, we had a lot of injuries, we just couldn't get going, we weren't very consistent, our passing game needs work, and all those things are true, but Ernest Biner is playing like heck.
He sure is. That's no surprise. Biner again. Jack Del Rio stopped him for perhaps a yard.
Yeah,
Brad Culpepper.
Yeah, there's a rookie that's done pretty well. In fact, the first game of the season, he started. And he had a real good preseason. It was probably the biggest surprise. Watch him there, number 77. He's the fast tackle. He's playing for Randall. Again, he makes those quick moves. You see what they do? The way Minnesota plays defense is they stick their helmet in a gap and then push the gap.
Rippon chased out to the pocket, gets it to Biner, a throwback. Rippon's still down and hurting.
He is really going to be hurting after this game. I mean, now it was his elbow. It's his left elbow. He got his knee early. That was the old jump pass. Watch this one. He's going out there to the right. He's going to stop and throw an old jump pass. That was a hit that he took by 3 guys after he threw the old jump pass. You don't see that one much anymore, where a guy rolls right, throws back to his left, the jump pass.
That was done out of necessity and fright. First and 10, Washington at their own 35. 2:21 left to play in the third quarter. Monk in motion. The handoff. Big handoff. Complete to Gary Clark. A very good fake.
Del Rio got back there. Felix Wright was in there. Oh, and then, you know, we're talking about that game down in Dallas. I don't know where the heck this thing came from, but that's how I'm getting there. I go into Dallas. Holy moly.
Where's the bed?
I don't know. The bed is in the back right here, and then you take that guy and try and fit him in there.
That's not big enough. Don't kid me.
That is terrible, but the game, the Eagles at the Cowboys, that's football now.
That's the madness cruiser. Here's Rippon back to throw, chased by Dolman. Picked off by Todd Scott. Scott stopped by Monk at the Redskin 36. He returned at 19.
Bad throw by Rippon. Not a very good effort by Ricky Sanders, but Todd Scott wanted the big play, has been a big play for these guys. Been a big play guy for these guys. Watch here, a little pressure. Force is ripping out. He's trying to hit Sanders there. I guess it was too high. Sanders couldn't do anything about it, but he just stood there. The ball went over his head right to Todd Scott. Todd Scott was the guy, remember, that intercepted the pass against Harbaugh that sent Mike Ditka crazy.
Here's Gannon trying to strike quickly, and he's chased out of the pocket. Chased by Mann. Mann takes him out of bounds. The Vikings want a flag, but no penalty taken. No penalty called. No flag down.
Charles Mann, there's a flag way over on the other side of the field, but there wasn't a flag for this one. He didn't know Mann was there. I mean, he was right on the sideline. That would be a tough one to call. Mann ran that far. He has to make some kind of play.
The flag thrown on the other side of the field that you talked about was against the Vikings. Second down, no penalty on Mann. The flag was on the other side of the field, and the Redskins was against the Vikings. The Redskins declined. Second and 14.
Tim Irwin, number 76, has done a heck of a job against Charles Mann. That's one of the first times that Mann's name was mentioned today.
Well, that really wasn't Irwin's fault either. Gannon, pump fake left. Harder. And again, let's send you back to our New York studios for an NFL update. Greg Gumbel.
All right, Pat, in Tampa, Barry Sanders is having his best day since week 1 of this season. His second TD of the afternoon is a 55-yarder, 113 yards rushing on the day. The Lions lead Tampa Bay 31-7 in the third. Pat?
Here at the Metrodome, the Redskins 12-3 over the Vikings. The third quarter coming to a close. 3rd and 6, Minnesota. The Redskin 32. Gannon under pressure, and down he goes. Jumpy Geathers. A loss of 7.
Jumpy Geathers is one of the best pass rushing defensive tackles in the league. And what he does is he just gets and pushes that pocket back. See him 97, they get a double team. He just pushes things, and then the minute that Gannon steps up, there's Geathers.
Geathers gathered Gannon. How's that?
Yeah, that's pretty good. And Joe Gibbs says he wish he could just play him more. He's such a good pass rusher and good football player, but his knees are so bad he has to pick the spots to play him in.
Newsom knocked back in play, and the Vikings down it at 4. Jake Reed made a great play to knock it back and keep it on the field of play, and the Vikings down it there. Watch Reed's move. In the third quarter.
You know, in that third quarter, the Vikings have had the ball 4 times, and they haven't gotten a first down.
Hard to get many points up there doing that.
I think part of that's good Redskin defense. The other part is a very conservative offense.
Ricky Irvin. Stopped by Jenkins.
This defensive line of the Vikings has been playing a heck of a game.
That's the end of the third quarter with the score Washington 12, Minnesota 3. Our coverage will continue after this message from your local station. You're watching the NFL on CBS.
This is CBS.
Okay, panel. How can you recognize a genuine yellow?
And Minneapolis, number 69, Mark Schlereth, is the only member of the offensive line for Washington playing where he began the season. Irvin for a loss. Dolman.
Hey, Dolman's playing a heck of a game today. You know, not only on the pass rush, but against the run. Look at that. We were talking about that. The third quarter stats. Minnesota doesn't have a first down. The Redskins only have 2. Neither one of them have been able to run the ball. Redskins 42 yards passing. Minnesota only 8. I again, Redskins in this half have had the turnover. First half, the Vikings with a turnover. This half was the Redskins with 2 turnovers.
3rd and 9. They go quickly outside to Irvin. And the Vikings pursue in a hurry. Carl Lee was the first one there. 5-yard gain, but they'll have to punt.
And we talked about Tony Dungy being the defensive coordinator and what he brought to this team, and that's exactly it right there. One, good tackling by the defensive secondary and swarming. His idea of practice and in the game is to get everyone to the ball. They say that's all he talks about. Everyone get to the ball.
You would hope, because we know so many of the guys, that there won't be any new head coaches in the NFL, but the next vacancy, I wouldn't be surprised if it's filled by Tony Dungy.
Yeah, he would be an excellent choice.
Good burn to Parker. Into Redskin territory, taken down there by Mitchell and Monty Coleman. Chris Dolman, as you said, had a great day. 13:27 left to play. 12-3 here. The Eagles continue to lead Phoenix 7-0. 20-10 Giants over Seattle. Bears by the same score over Green Bay. Detroit comfortably over Tampa Bay. Houston 24-10 Cincinnati.
You know, I think Joe Gibbs took off a jacket. Didn't he have a jacket on earlier, maroon jacket? Now he's in a shirt. That'll happen to you.
Gannon incomplete. Intended for Carter. Joe Johnson.
I don't know if that right hand is bothering Gannon or not, but he really hasn't been very efficient passing. He's had some guys open and hasn't gotten the ball to him. Sometimes he's held the ball instead of throwing it. That could be, one, because the hand's bothering, or two, because they had turnovers early and they got worried about, hey, don't turn the ball over. And they're getting maybe a little too conservative.
2nd and 10. They start Anthony Carter in motion. They give the ball straight ahead to Roger Craig, and he is stopped immediately by the whole middle of the Redskin defense.
And the fans are booing there. I know Gannon's making some motions to the sideline, something he wants. Denny Green thought that fake of the receiver coming across would get the middle linebacker out of there. Kurt Gouveia is a very bright football player. They let that fake of the reverse go, and Gouveia just stood right in there.
3rd and 10, no gain by Roger Craig on the last play. Clock running down to 4 seconds. And Gannon comes out of the pocket, throws across the middle, 1st down, complete to Johnson. Gannon did most of that on his own. He was under pressure. Gain of 13.
Yeah, the one thing, the Redskins are getting real good pressure up the field on him. So Gannon has to step up. Now, by stepping up, that opened a whole new field of vision for him. And in that field of vision, boom, here comes Joe Johnson.
That's the first Viking 1st down in the 2nd half. They're at the Redskin 30. Washington leading 12-3. But off this is Roger Craig on the misdirection, stopped by Monty Coleman, a gain of 7.
Well, that time it worked. They brought Anthony Carter. He came in the same fake, that same motion again, and boom, they just hit Roger Craig. Watch, 81 will come across. You see, they faked that thing to him. But again, Eric Williams missed the tackle there, and that gave Roger Craig a middle.
And an injured Redskin on the play. Still down.
July 1992. Oldsmobile
field goals, one a 52-yarder for the Redskins. That's all their points. Washington has 2 turnovers. The Vikings 3. Monk has not caught a pass today. There's Monty Coleman, who was injured on the last play. Redskins 12, Vikings 3. Tony Barker, just activated this week, has taken Monty Coleman's place.
Now, Monty Coleman got kicked in the head there, kneed in the head by Roger Craig. Monty Coleman, remember, was taking Andre Collins' place. So that's the third outside linebacker for the Redskins.
Gannon gets it outside to Craig. Craig cuts upfield inside the 15 to the 12. Eric Williams made the stop.
Yeah, if you look at Monty Coleman here, watch what happened. Roger Craig, again, is coming through here, and he has the high knee action. Watch right there, the left knee knees him right in the head. And that was a knockout punch with the left knee.
And then he fell on him. 1st and 10 Minnesota at the Washington 12. Chris Carter in motion. The fake to him. Gannon is chased. Gets it out to Craig, and Craig is down close to a touchdown. Touchdown. The Vikings are signaling. The officials are not.
I think the official spotted it. He spotted about the 1 foot line, Pat. The official on that side. Yep, he's moving his foot up, back, back. But I think it's up. I think it's about the 1 foot line.
Barker on the stop.
Again, this misdirection did work. Fake to the end, coming behind. Throw it out here to Roger Craig. Roger Craig knows where that end zone is. You see his knee was down before the ball got across the plane.
He bounced into the end zone, no question about that, but his knee was down. Allen. Left side, not in. Yes, he is. Touchdown, Minnesota. Looked for a moment as if he didn't make it, and then he did. And that narrows the score to 13-9. Raves will try to make it 13-10. Here's the touchdown.
Okay, everyone gets down low, so Allen gets down low too. Sometimes you go over the top on those things, but that didn't look like Gouveia was there. And you see the ball right here. He reached the ball through that big thing and broke the plane.
Raves for the extra point. 13-10. First touchdown of the day. 12-10, sorry. 12-10. 4 field goals by Washington. 1 touchdown by Minnesota.
CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by Oldsmobile, the power of intelligent engineering. Payne Weber, we believe our most important investment is an investment in relationships. And by Pennzoil, America's #1 selling motor oil for performance, protection, and quality.
Back at the Metrodome in Minneapolis, Pat Summerall with John Madden. 12-10. The Redskins on 4 field goals by Chip Lohmiller lead Minnesota. Vikings Reves kicks off. Line drive in the direction of Desmond Howard, who downs it there. Reves has kicked a lot of balls in the end zone. There's 18 going into this game, 3 today.
Yeah, when we talked to Denny Green, he was talking about Roger Craig and being underutilized, and he said we're going to utilize him more, and as the season goes on, we'll even utilize him more. And I think that this may be the start of the utilization of Roger Craig.
1st and 10, Washington at their own 20. They lead by 2 points with 9:47 left to play. Rippon. Pass to Monk is complete. His first completion to Monk of the day. McMillan made the stop, a gain of 5.
You talk about Wilbur Marshall, but Kurt Gouveia is a guy that has played a heck of a game today too for these guys. I mean, the guy's always in the right place, has had a big interception, made a couple of big stops. Wilbur Marshall always playing well. Charles Mann's been a little quiet today for the defense. This defensive line here has been very, very active. The whole group of them.
They're not that big, but they are quick. Monk in motion. On 2nd down, Rippon to throw it. Pass is complete to Terry Orr, and Orr gets a Redskin first down to the 43.
And
Ray
again,
Berry.
I was just going to say, and again, Henry Thomas was in there and knocks Rippon down. It seems like even when he completes the passes, he's getting knocked down. Watch him step, watch, boom, 97, doink, right there. I'll tell you, he's had a lot of those whaps, and when you get it on this turf, that's getting a double whap. That's one thing they're right. I mean, he can be counting on getting knocked down because you get hit by the first blow of the guy, and then when you hit the ground, that's another one.
First down, Washington at their own 44. Rippon gives to Feiner. Feiner up near midfield. McMillan made the stop. Here's the book on Rippon today, under pressure.
I say they've only sacked him 2 times. Mark Rippon doesn't get sacked a lot because he gets rid of the ball. He finds his guys. He knows where to go with it. But he's been hurried 13 times, and that doesn't hurt you. That just makes you throw it when you don't want to. But he's been knocked down 7 times, and that's the thing that hurts you. It starts to take a toll.
Second down and 5. Feiner, the deep back. Monk in motion. Feiner again. Hit just as he reached the original line of scrimmage by Del Rio.
Yeah, Jack Del Rio was saying that it was a good fit, and he really liked it when he came here, but it was pretty good for the Minnesota Vikings, too. They needed a middle linebacker, and he was a Plan B free agent. It was just one of those things that worked all around. The Cowboys, they got a #1 draft choice playing there. They're probably satisfied with their situation. The Vikings are happy. Del Rio's happy. What more do you want?
Rippon going deep for Clark. Incomplete. Almost had it. Lost it. Lee, the defender.
I tell you, these guys have been banging Rippon around so much. They got him throwing when he doesn't want to, and he's not even stepping forward anymore.
It's all arm.
I'll tell you, his footwork is really gone. I think that you got some rush and some anticipated rush, and that one there was more anticipated rush. These guys have really shaken up Mark Rippon today.
Good burn back to punt. Parker deep for the Vikings. Redskins leading by 2 points. Off the side of his foot. Little bit of a Redskin bounce, and they'll down it at the 16, where the Vikings will take over. 1st and 10 with 6:38 left to play.
A look behind the scenes as sports and science converge, brought to you by AT&T. For competitive cyclists, aerodynamics are...
Gannon complete to Chris Carter. Carter out of bounds in Redskin territory across the 50. Chased by Sidney Johnson out of bounds.
Yeah, Chris Carter looks like he's gotten faster to me. There's always a rap against him that he really didn't have speed. But watch him when he catches the ball here and then turns up. Now that there looks like speed to me.
Does to me too.
I mean, I guess it's all relative. You know, I mean, maybe he's not as fast as the fastest guys in the league, but I'll tell you, he can get open. He's big. He's strong. He can catch the ball. And I don't know that you need a heck of a lot more than what Chris Carter brings to the game today.
A gain of 20 for Chris Carter. And a timeout, Minnesota. 12-10 the score. Washington leading.
Yeah, Joe Gibbs, you know, he had a jacket on at the beginning of the game. He took the jacket off. Then he had those buttons up there. He had one of those buttons buttoned. So the jacket came off, and the buttons are starting to come. And I'll tell you, I mean, that you know, in a heated game, that's what happens to you as a coach. He said last night, he said when he left, he told his wife, he said, this is the biggest, toughest game we're going to play. And she goes, oh, come on, you always say that. And he said, but every game he goes into, he feels that way.
I think that's why he's so successful.
Denny Green, he says that, you know, he has that coach's mentality too, and that he goes fishing every morning and on Friday afternoons if they win.
If they win.
If they don't win, no fishing.
The fish get a reprieve.
I didn't even catch any fish yesterday.
On first down, Gannon to throw it. And Gannon scrambles down to about the 40. Monty Coleman made a stop, but Gannon got 9.
And we're just talking about speed. And you know, Chris Carter, we're talking about his speed, but watch, this is quarterback speed. This is Gannon, he's 4'5". You see, when he makes a ball, now he's a runner, and he turns into a runner. He's a quarterback, and then when he starts to run, he's a runner. A lot of quarterbacks start to run, they're still quarterbacks. But Gannon can turn into a real runner.
More of a runner than a scrambler.
Yeah, Steve Young's that way, too. When Steve Young starts to go, he's a runner.
The handoff goes to Allen. And Allen over the left side, inside the Redskins 30 to about the 26. Copeland and Edwards had to make the stop. Do safety.
Now they finally got to him over there. You know, Monty Coleman came out with a concussion. I'm not sure that he's okay in there because that's right where they're running. Watch here, they get a good double team. They get a good block down there. What a hole there. Govea misses there, and they get right to the safety. Yeah, I'm not sure that once they say a guy has a concussion, I'm not sure that he should play anymore that day. I mean, that ought to be some kind of rule that they put, because there's no such thing as a little concussion.
First down, Minnesota. This is Allen again. Feeling his way and bouncing to about a 3-yard, 2-yard perhaps pickup.
Denny Green's pretty close with Joe Gibbs. When Denny Green last year was a head coach at Stanford, a couple years ago, he recruited Joe's son, Coy Gibbs. And Coy Gibbs was a starting linebacker at Stanford for Denny Green. That Coy's still playing at Stanford. He had an injured knee now and didn't play last week. That makes Joe Gibbs a good friend of Denny Green's and a big fan of Stanford.
2nd and 8.